In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Leather Repair Doctor to repair tears, rips, and scratches on any piece of leather or vinyl. You'll see how we took this ripped piece of leather and were able to repair it using our unique and proprietary liquid leather adhesive to achieve near perfect restoration, which is what you're looking at right now. Okay, so let's begin with our ripped piece of leather. As you can see, we're going to be using Leather Repair Doctor. And the first thing you want to do is clean the damaged area so there's no grease on the surface. Next, we need to match the right color, which you can do using the match guide you'll find inside your kit. In this example, we're going to be using brown as our base, adding just a little bit of black with a spatula, which is also included in your kit. Or you can use a brush if you'd like. You can use the empty mixing bottle to mix the colors and get the exact color you need. Next, we're going to stir the colors thoroughly to make sure it's mixed well, and test it to make sure you have the correct color that matches the item you want to repair. Now keep in mind, you can always clean the adhesive from the piece you're working on and start all over if the color is off for whatever reason. Now, unless this is a piece of furniture and you can access both the front and the back of the piece, we recommend you use a thin piece of plastic film or clear plastic wrap to make the repair process as clean as possible and make sure you don't glue the piece to anything else. If you are repairing furniture, you don't need to do this. Now, if you're dealing with a rip, a tear, or a cut, what we're going to do is we're going to apply the adhesive to each of the ripped edges. I'll show you what to do with the scratch in just a little bit. Now here's what's happening. This adhesive was created using nanotechnology, and when you apply it to leather, it begins polymerizing. Polymerization is a chemical reaction that creates a strong bond, turning this adhesive into liquid leather upon application. Also, you'll notice after it's dry, the color will not change, and that's because it contains clear polyurethane in the mix. However, you will not smell anything, so this adhesive is not toxic. Okay, so when you're done, we're going to glue it together, and by pressing with the brush or the spatula, you can straighten the edges to make sure they fit in place. So what we need to do now is let the whole thing dry for about 15 or 20 minutes. Then we're going to come back and work on the seams in creating texture. As you can see, the left seam is a little deeper than the other two. We're going to use the seam on the left as an example on how to fix a deep scratch. I'm going to go ahead and pause and come back in about 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. Now we're going to apply a very thin layer to the damaged area with a spatula or a brush. Now make sure it's a thin layer, about 1 millimeter, otherwise it'll take much longer to dry. If it's a very deep scratch and you'll need more than one layer, then what you want to do is wait for the first layer to dry for about 15 or 20 minutes before applying another layer. And you can add more layers if you need to make sure the scratch or the tear is completely gone. Also notice the way we apply the adhesive with circular movements or strokes which are perpendicular to the seam. In other words, we're going across the seam back and forth. We're just trying to get the adhesive to completely cover the damaged area. And as I've mentioned, as you'll see, the color is not going to change after it's dry. Once you mix the colors, what you see is what you'll get after it's done. By the way, if you think you got too much adhesive, or if you think the color is off and you want to start again, you can completely remove it with a wet sponge or a piece of cloth using just water. Now, after the adhesive is completely dry and you want to remove it for whatever reason, you can use rubbing alcohol or a nail polish remover. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to let it dry for another 20 minutes. We want to make sure it's completely dry. Alright, so about 20 minutes have passed, and now that the adhesive is completely dry, here's how it looks. We made the seam a little bit bigger than it needs to be so that you can see how to polish it and remove any excess adhesive either with rubbing alcohol or nail polish remover. All you need to do is dip a cotton swab in either rubbing alcohol or nail polish remover and gently buff the seam going back and forth across the seam. So what we're doing is we're polishing it. Do this as much as necessary until you achieve the desired outcome. Of course, we're going to need to let it dry first. And keep in mind that you can completely remove the adhesive even after it's dry with either rubbing alcohol or the nail polish remover. After it's dry, we'll show you how to quickly create texture. So for now, let's let it sit for about 20 minutes. Okay, we're back. This is completely dry, and we can now remove the plastic back. You can now create texture by squeezing the leather in your hands. Now, if you're repairing furniture and you can't really squeeze it, then use the tip of your fingers to shape and sculpt the texture as much as you can. And now we've gotten your perfect restoration. This is how you would repair a rip, a tear, a cut, or scratch using Leather Repair Doctor.